Hey guys, if you like this video, please give a thumbs up, share it and subscribe so that I can keep bringing content to y'all. Finally, I arrived to the city of Salem. At first, the original owner of the body was killed as a thief, and then, when crossing this world, I took this body. Unexpectedly, the owner was the son and legitimate of the great family Orlando. I am here for several reasons. Here will start my new life, with the system of the strongest lord. The lord of the city was giving him the news that his father died last week and the new successor is his half-brother Wenger. Richard, as the prota is called, asks what he means, and they tell him to give up the surname Orlando. If he agrees, Wenger will give him 500 gold coins, and brings him a chest with the coins with which he could start his new life, and apparently they already reached a deal. But Richard tells him that the surname Orlando has many achievements and is the most precious thing that his father left him. They ask him if then he does not agree, but he really wants more money, so they will give him a loan of 1,000 coins without interest. And they make a deal, but first he tells him that he heard a group of barbarian slaves in the great arena. The lord of the city recognizes that good idea to form a guard with barbarian slaves, but he asks him if he agreed to spend everything on slaves who do not receive orders from anyone. But for that reason is that Richard wants to go, so it will be 20 coins per person and they are a total of 50. The first step of Richard's plan had been a success, and the lord of the city recognizes that he is not someone ordinary. The original owner was beaten to his end for stealing. I got the system of the strongest lord by learning martial arts, but the old man was crazy. He ended up passing the last name to me, to someone from the street. Luckily they gave me the permission to expand and I came fast to the city. Already in the Colosseum, Richard asks to see the barbarians. The count gave him permission to buy them to form a guard. The owner tells him that she will not pay for a doctor if something happens to him with that little body. They could take him hostage and escape. They can even take down crocodiles and eat their blood, which seems perfect to Richard as they can hunt their own food. Maybe he should beat them. The lady thinks the prota is crazy. He tells her that's his problem, and while he sees his system, he had good level and characteristics. He says today he will be able to show his skills. And in the Colosseum he tells them all he bought them, but he knows they won't like that, so he proposes them to beat him to earn their freedom, and if they lose they will serve him and fight for him. When the first one of them shows up, he asks him not to cry if he loses. His name is Russell, barbarian from the Highlands. The lady said he was completely crazy. They should stop him, and when asking the help to the one who brought him, he says he was only responsible for bringing him. The lady couldn't let a nobleman die or else her arena would be finished. The barbarians told Russell to hold back a little, but he would show no mercy. Russell lunges at Richard, grabbing him by the shoulders, then throwing him in the air and knocking him to the ground. He thought the prota would be stronger and leave singing victory while the lady cried because her arena was going to be destroyed. Richard took Russell's foot, telling him he just let him strike first, and giving him a quick punch. Richard used the system to improve his body for years. He couldn't lose to someone like him. He tells him to stand up again. Russell stands back up but quickly takes him and subdues him. He couldn't believe he beat him and asks to fight one more time, while the other barbarians don't understand how he beat him. Richard beat him again and again and again, but he still wanted to continue fighting. The barbarians told him that it was enough. He had already been defeated 10 times, and someone shouts to them that it is enough. That was the leader, and asks to fight against the leader. He only has to defeat him and they will be free. Richard tells her that it is a promise, so she quickly attacks him. Richard recognizes that she is fast, and the system notifies him that Gunther the Barbara has been identified as a hero. He blocks Gunther's blow. It was the first time that the system showed him that of hero. He wants to see how strong he is, and Gunther lunges at him again with a strong blow that shatters the ground, who takes a piece of the ground, and while everyone cheered him on, this one throws the rock on Richard. The lady thought it was all over. The gentleman was crushed to death. Everyone and all were celebrating for that. You are fast and you have a lot of strength. It will be good stuff, says Richard, who was obviously still alive. Gunther was surprised but excited, and asked him to continue, and Richard tells him that as a leader brute strength is not enough. He is quick to get behind him, and uses the chains to subdue him. The rock was a distraction. Him breaking the chain tells him it was good. The barbarians could not believe he broke those chains made especially by dwarven craftsmen, that not even the leader with all her strength can break. He did it with his bare hands. Richard tells her she is fast, strong and strategist. It will be good to have her in his guard. Gunther realized that he never used all his strength and yells at him to respect her, and to please use all his strength or else they will never surrender to him. Wish that Richard grants her, giving her a strong blow, making her back off, and with a quick movement this one subdues her with his hands. She couldn't move, and Gunther tells that she lost. She can take revenge if she wants, and with a strong blow the prota takes off her chains, and gives her all 2 options: continue to challenge him until they lose, or follow him to become stronger themselves. Gunther takes his hand and in front of everyone tells them to obey. From that day on, Richard will be their new leader. Everyone agreed with the decision, celebrating the new leader, and the system warns him that the barbarian soldiers have requested to join his team, and he accepts the request. This wild world, chaotic and full of blood, many ambitious people wanted to create great feats by becoming lord and creating their own world, but most of them lost their lives and could not. I really want to start our journey to know this world. Now that I accepted this barbarians, my new life will begin. But right now the first thing is to dress these people, and he takes everyone to a store where they were excited about the new clothes. The dwarf Niken welcomes him. Richard heard that they sell good weapons in that place. Niken recognizes that he is a master and touches a secret button, making the walls move and showing everyone that it was a weapon store. The Proto asks for a spear to each one and 3 throwing spears. The total was 750 of gold, but Richard didn't have enough, and seeing that he is poor, he presses the button again, but Richard tells him not to worry and pulls out a sword. Niken recognizes it as the dragon slashing sword. The first time he saw a legendary weapon, and if he has such a sword he must be someone important, so he will avoid offending him and tells the Proto that it is better that I keep using this sword. We'll give him a letter so he can pay on credit, and tells everyone to take a leather armor too, convincing Niken of this. Gunther was asking him what to do after that. The Proto tells him that they will go take their own territory, and later everyone was armed and ready. While someone was watching them, it was a goblin leader together with a tribe of wolves. They were planning to steal everything from them. The goblin leader tells him to wait for some more to come in and then they will attack him. Gunther notices that and tells Richard that some little ones were watching him. But he already knows that and tells everyone to watch the food and get ready to fight. He calls Gunther and asks him to give one of those pills to everyone. He doesn't understand what it is and explains that it's a pill that makes you stronger, which they can't believe, but Richard convinces them. In reality they are fake, and by opening the system they actually gain experience fighting. In this battle they will surely level up, and to hide it he invented the pills that improved them in combat. Now with the goblin leader, the wolf was desperate to fight, but the goblin stops him and tells him that just by feeling their auras they will surrender, but they will kill them all anyway. Richard asks them to get ready because they were all coming at once, and attacks with one of his supercharged spears that was going directly to the goblin leader. But he deflects it with his arm cover, killing one of his own, saying that he is strong but he will not be afraid of him, telling everyone to attack together, and they all start the fight. Richard asks him for another spear. It was not necessary to finish them all. He should only attack the right one, and preparing a spear loaded with fire he hits one of the giants in the head, scaring all the wolves and the goblins, and making them flee the place and motivating the barbarians in the process, when one of them was going to die at the hands of a wolf. With one of the spears Richard manages to avoid it and shouts to everyone to take advantage and fight with all their strength, turning the battle with that. But there was still the goblin leader. Richard tells him that if he is not afraid of being captured by the other races, he tells him that the only races are miles from there to the east, in the high mountain fortress, and those kobolds don't have the guts to steal his loot. Richard thanks him for the information, so he will take out the dragon's sword to let him see its power. And with a single cut he finishes with the goblin leader. The goblin said that the Proto was a monster, and it was time to finish with everyone. The system warned the level up of everyone, and they felt that he became stronger by mentioning the pill. When everything is finished he tells him that they subdued 2 trolls, and if they should finish them. But he tells them they can help him carry things. Gunther tells him that he found a map. Richard sees it and then tells everyone that they will go to the high mountain fortress. Later they were already on their way using the trolls as horses. Seeing the system, every time you level up, you get free points, although the store button is still grayed out. For the time being you will continue to improve your strength. Weapon skill can improve it in combat as well. For the time being I can't use magic because of my talent, but my strength is still 10 times higher than anyone else's. Gunther tells him that they were already arriving at the fortress. It was a nice place where they take advantage, and everyone takes a bath. Some had hunted some food, and Richard notices Gunther uncomfortable. He tells him that he knows he has fought a lot and that there is a hidden place where he can bathe. He will watch over everyone while Gunther thanks him, and in a nice place this one was taking a bath. At night he asked everyone to get ready. The kobolds were watching. Richard says they won't attack them head on, and inside the fortress one kobold wanted to make a pass at another. When Richard enters, the kobold asks everyone to get ready, and one of the barbarians tells Richard that everyone has been taken care of. The leader gets arrogant and Richard makes him regret that. He asks Gunther to untie him. He plans to let him go, and as he ran the dog planned something. Gunther didn't expect it to be so easy. Richard had already checked out the whole place. It's a place with plenty of living space, plus they have a good field of vision kilometers away. He shows them a map and yells to everyone get ready for the first battle. The fortress is easy to defend and hard to attack. It has water sources, making it a good base. A place like that can't be conquered so easily by those dogs. And letting the leader go will cause him to return with troops, and he had no more money, so it was time to harvest. They will catch them all together. Another day at night everyone was having dinner. Several days had passed but they still didn't attack. When a barbarian tells him he was right, there is an army not far from the place, and standing up he tells everyone to get ready for the harvest. The guys were even sleeping peacefully. That group of goblins, for sure he was called by the kobolds. He tells them he will go with Gunther and others, and the rest protect the fortress with the trolls. They will go to show them who is in charge in that place. A goblin was sleeping peacefully when they wake him up and Gunther finishes him with a cut. The barbarians were finishing with everyone. They are good at fighting alone, but in group they don't perform very well, because they haven't been taught well that being strong is not enough, but these soldiers have become a good group. The system not only gives them strength, one of them was already confident of victory when the ground below begins to shake, and out of it comes a large goblin. The goblin gives a shout and tells Bahamut to come out. Out of the ground comes a large mount. The goblin tells them to let him punish them. Gunther uses one of the spears, and when he touches the beast it splits, and the goblin lunges at Gunther with his beast, but Richard quickly gets in front, taking one of the legs of the beast, and with all his strength he throws it away, defeating it. The goblin could not believe that. Richard asks him to surrender, but he used an axe, throwing a strong cut. That Richard stops with one hand, and with the other he gives him a blow. The system had rewarded him well, and while he was thinking what to do, Gunther calls him. He already had the loot ready. They had a chest, but in this there were only 2 gold coins. Gunther asks him what to do with the beast, and Richard wonders if his meat will be rich. Well, the beast said no, so he tells him that from now on he will be called Come, and if he disobeys he will cook it for everyone. The next day, watching the system at last they had activated at the store, he has little money, so he must buy something basic. The purchase was a success, and before him materializes that spear he bought. Gunther asks him if he can also use space magic, but before saying anything they noticed that there was movement nearby. They were a group of wolves stealing money again. It was a caravan of people with money. Gunther asks him if they should intervene, and he says yes, maybe if they help they can do business in the future. The wolves demanded all the money to the people. An old man tells him that they are commercial companies. If they do something to them the imperial army will finish them. But Los Lobos don't care. They start a fight where they cut the old man in the back. The old man begged him to leave him in exchange for money, but it was too late, and before anything happened a spear pierces the wolf, and Gunther gives the order to finish them all. Richard won't do anything this time. The barbarians are strong enough to do it until they manage to finish them all off, although some were running away, and when he asks why, the wolf tells him that those are the ones who defeated the goblins. Trolls and goblins. They suddenly appeared and climbed up high quickly. That guy is called legendary noble Lord of the Moor, and while they were running away, Ven throws them up in the air and eats them. They were no longer simple barbarians. They already fight in group in an orderly manner. A religious man was thanking Richard for the help, and they make it clear that he did it for money. A woman says that it is worthy of a greedy nobleman. This elf tells him that it is really interesting. Her name is Annie, trader of the company Footprint. Annie thanks him for the help without looking for interest, and asks for his help. They already suffered losses and many wounded, so they cannot complete the trade. Asks to rest on their land and then they can leave. This one tells him that it is not cheap to live in their territory, and these are willing to pay with money and weapons. Annie asks Ludo to take that out. This one took out a sphere. It is a kind of magic phone. He asks for reinforcements, and they tell him that it will take at least 3 days to arrive. Richard was already thinking about how to do business with them to make a lot of money in the future, and invited them all to stay in his territory in the high mountain fortress. They attended to all the wounded by preparing potions. Richard notices that, and it was a legendary healing potion, but the system doesn't allow him to see the recipe because of his current level. The potion costs at least 50.000 per bottle. At night, Richard was thinking about how orderly the caravan army is, while his own only fight for weapons from others. Likewise, they have grown a lot as a team when Gunther warns him of something. A wave of half-human and half-horse monsters were heading towards them with weapons. Centaur clan leader Hut. At that moment, numerous spears were heading towards them, falling with good impact, but tells him to continue, and since they ignored the warning, they attack them again, causing Hut to stop them and pulling out a white handkerchief, making it clear that they surrender. So Richard will go to talk to them. He asks the leader to explain the situation. He introduces himself and tells her that he comes with good intentions. Richard introduces himself, and this one asks if he is the Richard Invincible of the martial arts field. This one apparently knew him. He is very famous. Even the Centaur clan has heard of his exploits. He tells her that he wants to tell her something important and hands her a piece of wood with letters that she does not understand what it says. She tells him that she wants to organize an army, and that is the invitation, since the kobolds are planning to take the fortress from him again. And this time they will bring mages and shamans with strength that he cannot underestimate. And she is willing to lend him the strength of her clan to win that battle. Richard asks her why help him and not the kobolds, and she says that the centaurs belong to the orc kingdom. They were not thieves, and they had a stable life. They had a nice culture, and they want to be by the side of someone as strong as the Proto to restore their glory as a clan. The system shows him the request of union with the Centaur clan, and already in the fortress he introduces them all to the leader Hut, and gives them the bad news. As soon the kobolds and Los Lobos will declare war on them again. When asked how much time they have, Richard tells him at least 10 days. But it is good since they have 10 days to prepare, and he already has a strategy ready. He will tell them everything when the time comes. He tells Annie that now they have an enemy in common. He wanted to ask her something. He wants her to lend him 500 gold coins, and she will help with the money. Later that night, he had to arm them all, and using the store he buys some things for Hut. Surprised because apparently she can also use magic. She takes the bow and with maximum concentration shoots an arrow that goes through some leaves and a moving bee. She thanks him for giving her such a good bow when they are interrupted. They tell him that Annie's reinforcements were attacked, and when they went to see what was happening, they had finished with everyone. Seeing the situation, Richard asks Annie to return to the city of Zulum with the men they have. Even if they are attacked by a wolf, they can defeat it, but she refuses to do it. She will not abandon those who fought for her. Richard asks her to add more money, about 2,000 gold coins to make up for the delay. She accepts. Suddenly Hut says that a spear has a strange smell. The tip was made of refined iron, something difficult for natives. Annie tells him that the wasteland is bigger than he thinks. Further north there are many powerful and large tribes, or different from a kingdom. They have their own adult leaders and their own wars, so it is normal for them to make their own souls. Hut asks her if she means the Icefield tribe, and she says yes. The cowboys are with an army, so those natives could also join the army, and Richard plans to catch them all at once. And so 10 days passed. Everyone was training hard when they notify Richard that they found the enemy. They tell him that they are currently 50 miles away from the mountain. They will arrive tomorrow morning, and Richard was already excited to receive them. The next day it was already time to fight. He asks everyone to have no mercy and start the battle. Richard puts on a suit of armor, and when asked what to do, he asks them to launch a round of arrows, then sends him to run as a wave and finish off 100, so the rest will collapse on their own. They tell him that the monsters have more numbers than them, but this one tells him not to worry, nor rest. That army was too big. There were wolves riding wolves, and together with his beast Richard tells everyone to fight without fear. The centaur clan launches a round of arrows, managing to kill some of them. The enemy was getting closer and closer. They throw swords and other things that do nothing to the beast. When they were about to fight, a dragon horn goblin comes out of the ground, and using Ven, Richard makes a jump with which he knocks down many of them. The dragon goblin was easily cut by Gunther. The strongest of them throw themselves on the Proto, and he quickly changes the shape of his trident, defeating all of them quickly. The cowboys could not believe they are losing and ask the magician to cast a spell. That little one uses magic and creates a ball of fire, controlling it and turning it into a dragon. The impact broke the trident of Richard. His spells were too strong. It was the first time that they hurt the leader. It seems that girl controls magic with a staff. Hut arrived just in time, and Richard asks him if he can shoot that girl. She gives the order to her clan to shoot without stopping. The rain of arrows went straight to the magician, but the goblins protect her, and Richard takes advantage of the distance of the arrows and throws a spear. That goes straight to the chest of the wolf leader, and by the power this one fell back to the mage, breaking the staff with his weight and making the fireball extinguish, and begins to fall on his own army, causing them to burn and losing their lives in the process. The leader cowboy asks the shaman what to do, and this one begins to use her magic using an undead ability. Richard quickly begins to cut them all with his sword together with Gunther. They manage to finish them quickly, and seeing themselves in trouble, the mage and the leader cowboy flee from the place, but with a single blow he stops the Maga, and now this was his. Gunther asks him for the leader Nat. Richard pulls the Maga and tells her that it is her fault, and orders her to save him, to which she says, "My name is not Oi, it is Metal." He threatens her and quickly begins to heal him, but being very tired, Richard thinks that it will be useful to have her with him and gives her the order to take all the goblins and Los Lobos alive to work as slaves. Checking the system, this had a lot of light attribute points. They have been divided into strength and speed. The system really is very useful. Hut interrupts and tells her he can't do anything with that mage, so Richard will deal with her. This one was giving the barbarians trouble. Richard very kindly asks her where her lair was. "My name is Metal and has red dragon bloodline." Richard gives her a punch and asks her again where was her lair. She is scared. She tells him they are 200 miles from the mountain. The Proto asks her how many tribes are they, and she tells him there are no more because he defeated them all. But this one threatens her with breaking her teeth, and she is scared. She tells him only the best fighters were left, some women, children, and weak old men. He asks her about the spells they cast and tells her that by the red dragon line he can master fire. A minotaur mage controls the earth. The troll mages control the wood and trees, the wasteland. It was more dangerous than he thought, and asks Hut to go with Gunther to plan an attack, and when asked what to do with the mage and the cowboy, he says they have no more courage and to bury them alive. Richard asks her how she can serve him, and she tells him that she saw 2 trolls. Those trolls can be wizards as long as she trains them well. They can be reborn and become very strong wizards. 2 days later, the Proto had the adult goblins and wolves working for him. Hut tells him that they will finish in the afternoon and they can go back to rebuild the fortress to defend us from foreign enemies. First, we must improve the fortress. I want it to be the strongest fortress in the wasteland. Richard was asking Hut to go to the mage lair. He wants them to act as scouts and visit her about the situation, and if things get complicated to come back as fast as possible. And while they were leaving, they said it was time to see the little mage. "Hey, you ran so far these 2 days to train them, but they don't seem to have improved. I told you my name is not Oi, my name is Metal." And using his staff he alerts the trolls, tell him that they have unlocked the stone skin ability. Metal tells him that's not all. To avoid being hit they can become invisible, but only one managed to wake up. Richard wasn't very convinced of those abilities when Annie arrives and tells him that she was heading to the dwarf tribe and stopped by to say hello. Annie had a shipment full of coal, and when he asks her why she always carried so much, she tells him that with that she exchanges gold and other things with the dwarves. The coal is to smelt iron ore. The Proto doesn't know it, but 150 miles to the west of the fortress, there is a tribe of dwarves. Last year they discovered mineral veins in the sacred lake and hired them to bring them coal. And while they were talking, a bird brought him a letter from the lord of the city of Koron. He asked all the nobles who are expanding to return to the city quickly because there was a great wave of monsters. Hut had already returned. The round trip was 40 miles. Why was he back so soon? They inform him that the tribes of Magos and Los Lobos were fine, But on the way back they found a pile of dwarf corpses after a battle. But they were just dwarves, they couldn't even tell who the enemy was until they saw something. Bear men. Hud asks him how he knows this, to which Richard tells him from the letter. He warns of a tribe of bear men to the south, but the Proto won't return and asks Hud to rest and tells Annie that he won't be able to take that coal to the dwarves, and why not better give it to him. Welcome to Richard's artillery industry. I have been making my own weapons. He asks Gunther if that thing is ready yet. She tells him that thing was ready, so he will show him his precious treasure. That was something that only existed in his hometown. Hud took him to the place where they found the bear men. On the ground there were giant footprints. There were so many that Hud and his troop could only run, although luckily the centaurs had improved their speed thanks to the system. Otherwise they would have ended up the same. Everything had been stolen. The desert bears are cruel and greedy. When the Proto notices something, that dark thing was nothing but soy sauce. Those bears don't know about soy sauce. It's the first time I see soy sauce in this place. Annie let me open a restaurant in Koran. When the nobles taste the food we will make a lot of money, says Richard. It is getting very late, so we will spend the night here. Annie demands to know why we have to stay in that dangerous place. The bears were there for the iron ore. That material cannot be imitated. In this war the one who has the resources can attack first, and since that ore does not belong to the dwarves nor the bear men, Richard plans to take some. Annie warns him that those who tried to invade the Alpine fort could not do anything to them. But the strength of this fort was not what it was before, and this one already had Gunther and the rest of the team ready. He was completely safe and offers Annie, once everything is completed, to give him half of the ore, and these two make a deal. The army was ready for the attack. We are at the dwarves' castle. They were approaching slowly through the tall grass, and Richard asks them to stop. There was movement, and from the water some rabbits come out, but these did not manage to see them, so they hide. Those rabbits seem to be ready to attack the dwarves' castle. Something strange. I thought only the bears wanted to attack the castle. Annie tells that they are allies of the bears. Hey, why didn't you tell me that, says the mage. For being so responsive, he gives her a funny blow, while the rabbits reach the top of the castle, telling the dwarves that this is the plan of betrayal, alerting everyone and having a fight between both species, leaving the dwarves to fight the intruders. And when the rabbits were ready for the attack, they are sent to fly by the Protoss cannon, keeping a fight against the rabbits too. But these were not strong at all, they were just too many. At that moment the first of them was present, a huge bear spinning his mace on a dangerous attack, which the Proto managed to block, but letting him know his terrible strength. But it was not only a bear man. There were several motivating the rabbits and returning to attack with everything. The rabbits still had a reserve team hidden, and when they come out, it will be Metal's moment to shine, using his fireballs. The dwarves wonder who those people were. The patriarch Labby says he doesn't know, but they are on his side, and one of them asks for a team to support them. That dwarf is called Senda. The patriarch tells him that it will not be necessary to let them take care of it down there. The bears were super angry, but it was time to show them the true power, creating an electric tornado that manages to kill some of the rabbits, and attacking the bear breaks his mace, and activates the power of the heavens, imbuing his sword with power and cutting the bear in two, obtaining 300 gold coins. One of the trolls casts spells of fire, which Gunther takes advantage of to attack, but is kicked away. One of the barbarians throws his axe against the bear, but it does nothing. By distraction, Richard cuts his head. Gunther was fine, as the troll stone skin technique could be transmitted to another person. It seemed he had already won another battle, but these were back on their feet. He was using madness magic. Apparently there was not only them, there was also the Crescent Moon tribe, the Minotaur clan.